My brother's sister-in-law wanted to take money from my daughter because she was adopted. My name is Everett, and this is the story of how I became a father in the most unexpected way. Growing up in a small town in the Midwest, I had a close-knit group of friends. Among them was my best friend, Clarissa. We met in elementary school and were inseparable throughout our childhood and teenage years. Our bond was purely platonic. We were like siblings, always there for each other through life's ups and downs. Clarissa was the kind of person who lit up a room with her presence. She had an infectious laugh and a heart full of kindness. After college, she met a man named Leonard, and they fell deeply in love. Leonard was a gentle soul, and together, they made a wonderful couple. I was genuinely happy for them. A few years into their marriage, Clarissa gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Mabel. I remember visiting them at the hospital, holding that tiny bundle in my arms, and feeling an overwhelming sense of joy for my friend. Tragedy struck when Mabel was just 3 months old. Clarissa and Leonard were involved in a fatal car accident on their way home from a weekend getaway. The news shattered me. Losing my best friend and her husband in an instant was a pain I couldn't fathom. In the aftermath, questions arose about Mabel's care. Clarissa's parents had passed away years earlier, and Leonard's family was estranged. With no immediate family to step in, the state was preparing to place Mabel into the foster system. I couldn't let that happen. Despite being single and having no prior experience with children, I felt a deep responsibility to honor Clarissa's memory by caring for her daughter. After a series of legal proceedings and home evaluations, I was granted custody of Mabel. The early days were challenging. I had to learn how to change diapers, prepare bottles, and soothe a crying baby, all while grappling with my own grief. There were sleepless nights and moments of doubt, but over time, Mabel and I found our rhythm. As Mabel grew, so did our bond. She became the center of my world, and I couldn't imagine life without her. I made it a point to be honest with her about her adoption in age-appropriate ways. She knew that her mommy and daddy were in heaven and that I was her guardian because I loved her very much. Our extended family embraced Mabel wholeheartedly. My parents doted on her, and my siblings treated her like their own. Family gatherings were filled with laughter, love, and the occasional chaos that comes with young children. One day, during a family reunion, my brother's fiancée, Delilah, approached me with a curious expression. She had been looking at a photo album and came across pictures of Clarissa and Leonard. "Who are these people?" she asked, pointing to a photo. "That's Clarissa, my best friend, and her husband, Leonard," I replied. They were Mabel's biological parents. Delilah nodded slowly, processing the information. "So, Mabel isn't your biological daughter?" "No, she's adopted," I said, smiling. "But she's my daughter in every way that matters." Delilah didn't say much after that, but I noticed a subtle shift in her demeanor. She seemed more reserved around Mabel, often finding reasons to keep her son, Jasper, away from her. At first, I chalked it up to new parent nerves, but the pattern persisted. Then came the day that changed everything. Delilah showed up at my house unannounced, holding a manila envelope. Her expression was a mix of determination and apprehension. "I did something," she said, stepping inside. I gestured for her to sit, and she handed me the envelope. Inside were DNA test results. I had Mabel's DNA tested, she confessed. I used Jasper's DNA to see if they were related. I was stunned. "Why would you do that?" "I just wanted to be sure," she said defensively. "I thought maybe there was a chance." "A chance of what?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "That I was lying? That Mabel isn't part of this family?" Delilah looked down, unable to meet my gaze. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause trouble." I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions within me. "Mabel is my daughter. Biology doesn't change that." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I understand now. I was wrong." After that conversation, Delilah's behavior improved. She became more inclusive, encouraging Jasper and Mabel to play together. I appreciated the change, but the incident left a lingering unease. Family is more than blood, it's about love, commitment, and the bonds we choose to nurture. Mabel may not share my DNA, but she is, without a doubt, my daughter. After Delilah admitted to the DNA test, things were quiet on the surface, at least. She apologized, and although the words were there, something about it didn't sit quite right with me. I accepted it because I wanted to believe it was a one-time lapse in judgment. Maybe she had let suspicion or ignorance get the better of her. Maybe. For a while, everything seemed normal again. Mabel went back to playing with Jasper during visits. Delilah didn't make odd remarks, and the family atmosphere returned to something close to what it had been. But still, every now and then, I catch a strange look from her when Mabel did something particularly endearing, like offer Jasper her last cookie or laugh at one of his silly games. It was a look I couldn't place, part curiosity, part discomfort, maybe even resentment. The next family gathering came a month later, at our parents' house. My mom, Marlene, and my dad, Arthur, were planning something special. They had called Everett, my brother, and me to talk about starting educational savings plans for our kids. They said they'd been saving for years and wanted each child to have $50,000 set aside for college, or whatever future pursuit they chose. I was floored. So was Everett. We both knew our parents weren't rich, and this kind of support was a huge gift. I remember hugging my mom and thanking her, grateful that Mabel was being given the same start as any other grandchild. But across the room, Delilah stood stiff, holding Jasper a little tighter than usual. That night, after everyone left and Mabel was asleep in the back seat on our drive home, I caught myself replaying Delilah's expression. I didn't want to assume the worst, but something inside me stirred. A week later, I found out why. My parents called me on a Tuesday evening. Arthur sounded upset. Not angry, disappointed, like something had shaken his trust. "Son," he said, "we had a visit from Delilah." My heart sank. "She came by?" I asked. "Yes," Marlene chimed in. "Unannounced. She said she had something important to discuss with us." My stomach twisted as she continued. "She told us Mabel wasn't your biological daughter," Marlene said gently. As if we didn't already know. She acted like she was revealing some kind of family secret. I didn't say anything. My hands were clenched. "And then," Arthur added, his voice tighter now, "she said Mabel shouldn't be included in the college funds. That only blood relatives should benefit. She said Jasper was our real grandchild and that the entire amount should go to him." There was a long silence on the line. "I hope you told her where to go," I finally said, trying to keep my voice even. "We did," Marlene replied firmly. "I told her Mabel is our granddaughter, and that's not up for debate. And when she wouldn't let it go, I asked her to leave." I felt a mix of anger and gratitude. Anger that Delilah had tried to take something from my daughter, something that symbolized belonging, not just money. And gratitude that my parents stood up for her without hesitation. "I don't know what to say," I admitted. "You don't have to say anything," Arthur replied. "Just keep loving that girl like you always have." That night, after I tucked Mabel in and kissed her forehead, I stood by her door for a long time. I couldn't imagine how anyone could look at her and not see how much she belonged. But this wasn't over. I knew it. Delilah hadn't just overstepped, she'd crossed a line. And if I knew anything about her by now, I knew she wasn't going to let it go. Sure enough, Everett texted me 2 days later. "Can we talk?" Not a good sign. We met at a local diner. He looked tired. I could tell this wasn't easy for him. "She told me about going to Mom and Dad's," he said without prompting. "And about what she said?" I nodded, waiting. "She really thinks she was trying to protect our family's legacy," he said, hesitantly. "That the money should go to our real bloodline." I stared at him. "And what do you think?" "I think she's wrong," he replied, though his voice wavered. "But I also think she's scared. She feels like Jasper's going to get less because of someone who isn't ours." I leaned forward. "Mabel is mine. She's part of this family, no matter what Delilah thinks. And if she can't handle that, then maybe she's not ready to be in this family." Everett sighed. "She said she doesn't want to bring Jasper around Mabel anymore." The words hit me like a slap. Not because of what it meant for me, but for Mabel. She adored Jasper. She saw him like a cousin, a playmate, someone special in her little world. And Delilah wanted to take that from her. "I don't know what to do," Everett said. "Then figure it out," I told him. "Because if you can't stand up for Mabel, then we've got a bigger problem." After that conversation with Everett, things between us cooled. Not in the dramatic, shouting kind of way, more like a quiet drift. We weren't fighting, but we weren't close either. We used to text weekly, talk about our kids, share little wins and struggles. But now? Days passed, then weeks. I didn't hear from him. No visits. No check-ins. Jasper didn't come around. Mabel noticed. "Why hasn't Jasper come to play?" she asked one rainy afternoon as we put together a puzzle on the floor. I paused. How do you explain adult drama to a 6-year-old who sees the world in black and white, love and fairness? "He's just busy right now," I said, placing a puzzle piece without looking at it. "But he'll be back soon." She didn't push. Mabel wasn't the kind of child to whine or demand. She just nodded and kept working on her puzzle. That made it worse. She trusted me. She believed me. And yet I had no idea when or if her little cousin would be back in her life. A week later, Marlene invited us over for Sunday dinner. Nothing formal. Just pot roast, potatoes, and a night where Mabel could run around the backyard and I could sit in a chair and pretend for a while that everything was fine. I hadn't told my parents much about the fallout after the diner talk. They already knew enough about Delilah's behavior to form their opinions, and I didn't want to stir up more stress. But my mom could sense it anyway. After dinner, while Mabel played with a ball on the porch, Marlene sat beside me with a warm cup of tea. "She's doing all right?" she asked, nodding toward Mabel. "Yeah," I replied. "She misses Jasper. Doesn't understand why he disappeared." "She's a tough little girl," Marlene said, with a kind smile. "But that doesn't mean she should have to be." I nodded, grateful but also aching. I just don't get how people can be so rigid. She's a child. A good one. Why can't that be enough? Marlene didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached over and squeezed my hand. That said more than words. That night, after I tucked Mabel in and turned off the lights, I found myself replaying Everett's words over and over again. She doesn't want to bring Jasper around Mabel anymore. That line gnawed at me. A few days later, my phone buzzed again. "Everett. We should talk soon. Please." I ignored it. Not because I wanted to punish him. I was just tired. Emotionally tired. But the next day, I got a follow-up. "She's thinking about leaving. She says she can't be part of a family that doesn't value blood." That one stopped me in my tracks. So this is what it came to? Sarah, or Delilah, as I'd renamed her in this version, was ready to split from the family entirely because Mabel existed in it? Because she wasn't related? And Everett, my own brother, was caught in the middle, trying to juggle his child's future and the woman he loved? I didn't respond right away. Instead, I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in a long time, Clarissa's aunt, Lorraine. She lived 2 towns over and had always loved Mabel dearly, even though she'd never been able to take her in due to health issues. She sent birthday cards, called on holidays. She was our link to Clarissa's side of the family, the last living piece of her legacy. "Lorraine," I asked when we spoke, "do you think Clarissa would be okay with how things turned out? With Mabel being raised by me?" There was a pause on the other end of the line, and then a soft, firm response. "She wouldn't just be okay with it. She'd be proud. You gave Mabel more love and stability than most people ever find. Clarissa always said you had the biggest heart of all of us." I swallowed hard. Even if other people don't see it that way? Other people, Lorraine said, don't matter. Clarissa chose you. Life chose you. That conversation changed something in me. The next day, I messaged Everett. "Let's meet. One last time. We need to clear the air." We agreed on a quiet park near his place. It was just the 2 of us. No kids. No drama. Just a pair of tired brothers who'd been caught in something bigger than either of them expected. "I don't know what to do," Everett said, barely waiting for me to sit down. "She says if I don't support her, she'll leave. But if I support her, I lose you. I lose our family. Jasper loses his cousin." "You don't have to choose," I said, calmly. "But she does." Everett frowned. "You're saying it's her or Mabel?" "I'm saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying I won't allow someone in Mabel's life who sees her as less than. So if Delilah can't treat her with respect, with love, then yes, I'm saying she doesn't get to be around us." He nodded slowly, then looked away. I didn't think it would get this far. Neither did I. We sat in silence, letting the sounds of birds and wind fill the spaces we couldn't. Days passed after Everett's letter arrived in my mailbox, days filled with silence, questions, and a cautious kind of peace. I hadn't written him back, not because I was angry or distant, but because I needed time to think. When someone draws a boundary between love and obligation, it's not something you rush. You let it breathe. You watch how the pieces settle. Mabel was unaware of the shifts around her. She went about her days with the bright, boundless energy only children seem to possess. She practiced her reading with exaggerated flair, insisted her plush rabbit attend every dinner, and drew endless pictures of herself with Jasper, always holding hands, always smiling. Those crayon strokes were her truth. She believed in connection, in belonging. In family. Then came a warm Saturday morning that felt ordinary, but wasn't. I was pulling weeds from the side yard when Everett's old pickup rolled into the drive. He stepped out slowly, hands in his pockets, not nervous exactly, but uncertain, like he was walking up to something fragile. I didn't say anything at first. Just wiped my hands on my jeans and nodded. You hungry? He shook his head. Not yet. Just thought I'd stop by. We sat on the porch, and after a long pause, he spoke. She left. I didn't ask who. I knew. She said I was choosing you over her. Over Jasper. My throat tightened. And what did you say? I told her she was wrong. I was choosing what's right. And if she couldn't see that, then maybe we weren't meant to last. He looked tired, like he'd finally exhaled after weeks of holding his breath. She said she couldn't raise a child in a family that treats outsiders like insiders, he continued. And I told her Mabel's not an outsider. She's my niece. Period. A breeze moved through the trees, shaking loose a few dry leaves. I listened to the rustle and thought about how hard it must have been for him to say those words, not just to Delilah, but to himself. She's been staying at her sister's. We're sorting out custody, visitation. It's messy. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. No matter how I felt about Delilah's choices, I knew breakups weren't easy, especially with a child involved. Everett looked at me, more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. Do you think I made the right choice? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I pointed inside the house. Mabel made a picture yesterday. Said it's for Jasper. It's him, her, and a big red dog on his spaceship. Said it's his turn to imagine where they're going next. He smiled faintly. She always draws them together. Yeah, I said. Because that's how she sees it. Them, together. Family. He nodded. Then I guess I did. That afternoon, Everett stayed for lunch. Mabel was over the moon when she saw him, barreling into his arms with the force of 1,000 unsent hugs. She didn't ask about Jasper, not yet. She just showed him her newest drawing and asked if he could help fix the squeaky back door. We were mending in quiet ways. No grand apologies. Just shared meals, familiar rhythms, and time. Weeks passed. Jasper came to visit on a Sunday. I half expected him to be reserved, maybe confused about the absence of his mother in this space. But kids have a way of moving forward faster than adults. He and Mabel picked up as if no time had passed, running, laughing, fighting over who got to push the wagon. Later, when the sun had dipped low and the air was golden with early evening light, Everett and I sat with our parents on the porch. Arthur poured lemonade. Marlene passed out sandwiches. It felt like old times, like the storms had passed, though we all knew healing was a process, not a finish line. She's a bright one, Arthur said, watching Mabel teach Jasper how to spin in circles until they both collapsed giggling. She's always been, I replied. Clarissa gave me more than I ever realized. I don't think I knew what being a father meant until Mabel. Marlene reached over and took my hand. You've done her proud. Both of them, Clarissa and Leonard. They'd be grateful you stepped in. I just did what I could. You loved her, she said, firmly. That's never just anything. As the night settled in, Everett stood and clapped his hands. All right, Jasper. Say goodnight. The boy ran over, hugged Mabel fiercely, and promised to bring his walkie-talkies next time. When they drove away, the house felt quieter, but not empty. I tucked Mabel in an hour later. She asked if Everett and Jasper would visit again soon. Yeah, I said, brushing her hair back from her forehead. They'll be around a lot more now. She smiled. Good. I like our family. I sat on the edge of her bed and looked at her, the small, brilliant person who had come into my life through tragedy and changed it with love. Me too, Mabel, I whispered. Me too. Sometimes family is a choice. A daily, deliberate act of showing up, even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes, it's saying no to the people who don't understand. And sometimes, it's standing still long enough for those who do to find their way back. Mabel never knew about the test Delilah ran. Or the cruel things that were said. She didn't need to. Her world was built on what mattered most: love, safety, and a place to belong. In time, Jasper stopped asking where his mother had gone and started asking when he could see Mabel again. Their bond survived the rupture, and maybe, in its way, it taught us all something: that children don't care about legacy, they care about love. About who's there at the birthday party. About who shows up to clap at the school recital. As for Everett and me, we rebuilt. Slowly. Brick by brick. With patience. With truth. And though we never said it outright, I think we both knew what we had now was better. It was honest. And it was earned. Family is what you fight for. And I will always fight for Mabel. Thank you for watching the video. Like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.